All right, so we're going to move into just some logistics of kind of who we are and what we believe. And like Peter said, this group of people who are going to be investing in your kids is amazing. And the first thing I ask when we interview people for middle school positions is, why middle school? Because it can be difficult. And if they don't tell me because they're a little crazy, and I love that, because I love not knowing from morning to afternoon who they are from one day to the next, who they might be, then, we just move on to the next person. So it's primarily about building relationships, and it's primarily about people who understand and enjoy this time period, and of course know some things about science and math and social studies and all of those important pieces. So this is really kind of the foundation of what we believe a middle school program really is about. So we begin with the end of mind, to steal from Stephen Covey, if any of you guys are familiar with that. We really believe this is a 3-year process. So while we break it into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade years, we are looking at these kiddos as an entire middle schooler. So yes, we have benchmarks. Yes, we have curriculum. Yes, we have things that are specific to 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. But not every 6th grader ends up in the same place, or 7th grader or 8th grader. And sometimes it takes them the entire 3 years to grasp some of the things that a few kids will get quicker. So it is a 3-year process. We look at it holistically. We have to break it down into segments, but it truly is, how can we invest? How far can we get each individual child in these 3 years? We are not easy, and that is intentional. We want to challenge these kids. It is a difficult academic program, but it is supported. It's not difficult just to be difficult. It is difficult to teach them how to learn, to teach them how to accomplish, how to think, how to read, how to analyze, how to write in a way that they've just not done before. So I like to put the definition of there, because I don't want people to think like we make it hard just to make them suffer. It really is because we want them to understand how to function and learn and produce at a very high level. And every one of these teachers provides the support that is necessary to get these kids there. But it does challenge them, and they're going to be like, I don't get this and I don't understand, and it's frustrating, and that's okay. We want them in some capacity to be frustrated and to push through that so they can learn how to manage those pieces on the other side. It's a time of self-discovery, growing independence. As Peter kind of mentioned, we shift responsibility, and I'll talk about this a little bit later in a little bit more depth, but we really turn the conversation towards the kid. So you might not necessarily hear firsthand from a teacher about a missing homework assignment or something that happened in the class that maybe just, wasn't exactly the way it needed to be. What you might see is an email to your child with you CC'd, because we absolutely want you as a part of the conversation, and you are an important part of the process. We want the kids to start taking that responsibility. So it will be, dear so-and-so, just wanted to remind you about what happened in class and what we talked about. Or, hey, we've missed those last couple of assignments. Please make sure you come and talk to me about those. So it is the same. It is important for you guys to be involved. Where we start to do is shift that conversation a little bit so the kids begin to take ownership of that learning process. And self-discovery. One of the things that makes Jeremy's life hard, but I think makes our program so good, is we're a no-cut school. We don't cut for athletics. We have to put kids on different teams because, of course, they vary in skill level. But we want them to explore. We want them to try. We want them to be a part of a team. We want them to do things that are different and challenging and pick out some things that they super enjoy. I have my 2 girls, very, very different. They both played volleyball at Holy Comforter, both of them. My older one went on to play at Childs 4 years. So, of course, people would ask her sister, are you going to play for Childs? And she'd be like, no. That's scary. Those people yell at you, and they want you to work really hard. And she was not interested in that on the volleyball court. So, but she loved playing here. She played all 3 sports, almost all 3 years at Holy Comforter because she could, and she learned some really great lessons from that. But she had no interest and probably really not enough skill, which she knows, to move on to high school volleyball or high school sports. But she was able to discover and play and enjoy being here. Effective middle school program is balance. So, of course, one of the things that we are so incredibly blessed with being at Holy Comforter is we really can address the whole child. Social, emotional, spiritual, all of those pieces work together, and we invest in every area, and we have conversations in every area. They do go to chapel about twice a week. I'll tell you why it's about in just a minute when you look at the schedule. And they have religion classes, and they still have a relationship with Mother Beth and Andy, Mr. Nathan, Mr. Wonderful Andy Nathan, who plays for those lower school chapels, still plays for middle school. And so those pieces continue. And then, of course, we are a school, so we are challenging them and investing in them intellectually. And, as Lisa will talk about too, that social emotional piece is critical at this age. It is so important. So character is a huge part of what we do. And these guys navigating those changes in relationships can be very, very difficult for you and for them. And so we walk them through those processes, but there's not a facet of their lives that we are not interested in and invest in and want to help them grow in those areas. Work ethic and I said character are as important as grades. We measure, we have to report grades, but what we talk to them about is, and you'll see this in just a minute, our sort of tagline with them, and the middle school parents in here will be like, yep, I've heard that a million times. Work hard, be nice. Like, that's kind of our tagline for middle school. Work hard and be nice. And it's tough. It is tough for them to do both a lot of times, working hard and being nice. So we make sure both of those pieces, again, are a part of the conversation that we have. We want them, I tell them, listen, you guys have to know some stuff when you leave here about all of those subjects areas. You're going to know a lot. But as important, or maybe more important, is you are going to leave here knowing what it means to be a good person. And that's what we hear from high school, is these guys are prepared and they are generally reasonable human beings when they come out of Holy Comforter. And we send them to every school in the city, and we stay in contact with those schools because we want to know, how are our kids doing? How are our kids doing emotionally, intellectually? What is happening with those guys? What can we make adjustments here so that we meet those needs that they're going to encounter later? And then, of course, making mistakes is expected and is a powerful teacher. Okay, we don't ever tell them perfection is never the goal. It's not attainable. We just want you to try. And failure is a part of trying. And we're going to put things in front of them that are very difficult. And sometimes they will miss the mark. And we will say, that's okay. What do we do next? What do we do next? How do we learn from that? Why did that happen? And that could be a class. That could be a friendship. That could be any piece of that social, emotional, spiritual, intellectual. They're going to fail. They're going to crash and burn at some point in some area. And what they do next and what they get out of that is super important to us. So we address that. And that is, we start talking about that from day one with them. Like, hey, we're going to push you hard, right? It might not work out all the time like we want, but we're going to be here and we're going to work our way through that, and that's part of the process. All right, so all of that is how I talk to you guys. This is how we talk to them. So this is our honor code, and they say this every morning. We say the pledge, we say the honor code, and we do announcements with them. And they memorize this really quickly. It's similar to the one they used in lower school, but it's a little bit sort of expanded. And actually, we had students write this several years ago when we talked about what does it mean to be a middle schooler at Holy Comforter. And so this really is a student-generated honor code. So today, with God's help, I will be honest, encouraging, and compassionate. I will strive to be my very best and use my God-given gifts to be the difference in my school and community. I will lead my fellow students, be an example for others. I will make responsible choices and respect my teachers and peers. And there's the tagline. I will work hard and be nice. And so if your child should end up in my office or with Coach K, who is wonderful and is going to be helping us with some of those pieces as our middle school dean this year. He's out with the football players. But what I ask is, hey, where did we miss the mark on this? Did we? Because really, it's almost always, did we not work hard, or were we not nice? Almost everything boils down to those two things. But this is how we talk to them. This is our common language with them. So this is what they understand, and this is where we direct them back to. Okay, if we were not honest, if we were not encouraging or compassionate, how can we do that better? How can we make amends? Because that's important. And then how can we do it better next time? Okay, don't freak out. That is our schedule. So this is the logistical portion of our program. So we have a 6-day rotating block schedule. If you stare at it long enough, you'll see that it really is a repeating pattern. So they have those core academic classes, which are A, B, C, D, E, and F. And then they have an elective block. The core rotating classes, or the core classes rotate in that pattern. It's really kind of a 3-day pattern, you'll see. And then they alternate electives just every other day, but the electives are the same time every day. And then we have what's called target, and that's kind of like an advisory period. And that's the same time every day. And during target, they will go to chapel 2 of those 6 days. So on day 1, they'll go to chapel. On day 4, they'll go to chapel. And then on day 2, 6th graders will go to religion. So they'll come in here, and they'll have religion with Mother Beth. And then they'll go to target a couple of times during those 6 days, and the target lessons are guidance. They are social emotional. They are character education lessons, and those are done by Lisa, and they're done intentional by grade level. So we talk very differently to our 6th graders, particularly at the beginning of the year, than we do with our 8th graders. So 6th graders at the beginning of the year is, hey, figured out how to work your lock? Right? Like, don't freak out about the lock, right? They all just go nuts about the lock. There is no such thing as being late for a class for a 6th grader for like weeks. So if they start like panicking about the lock, first of all, when they come next Tuesday, they can take it home with them and practice as long as they bring it back. Or yes, Tuesday, they can bring it back Wednesday. But like, and we'll tell them in orientation, don't freak out about being late, right? Or about the lock. Lisa and I stand. We have the bank of 6th grade lockers is right outside the middle school office on purpose. And so we just sort of stand there in between every single class, right, because they have no idea what class comes next. So they don't know what stuff to get. They cannot take backpacks to class. That's for a number of reasons. Safety and organization, because if they could take backpacks to class, they would throw everything in the backpack. And not in any kind of folder or binder, so it's a forced organizational tactic, but it is also a safety protocol for us. So we will teach them all of that. There are no, they're going to freak out, even though there's really no reason for them to freak out, but we're going to talk about why that is in just a minute. So that is our rotating 6-day schedule of their classes. Classes are about 70 minutes long for our core academics, which is a great time for these guys in those classes because they have a lot of time to do a lot of different things. So, you are not going to walk into a classroom and see a teacher lecture for 70 minutes. The teachers don't want to do that. So it is, 20 minutes of one thing, a few minutes to, move around and maybe turn some things in or do something so that they can physically move. And then they move on to the next thing. So there may be at least 2 or 3 things that happen during that 70-minute block. It's also a really great time to be able to dive deeply into some concepts and get some super cool science experiments and projects done. So we found that that's a really good time frame for the classes. It also cuts down on transitions because we don't have 6, 7 classes a day. And transitions are where they can kind of get themselves into troubles every now and then. So cuts down on that piece. It doesn't look like they have a whole lot of time for lunch. There's a little bit of transition time that's not kind of reflected in there, but these guys eat really fast. So I promise they are not going to come home and say, I never have enough time for lunch. They eat in 10 minutes, and then they're out playing. We have a playground, essentially, for the middle school behind us, where we've got gaga ball, and we've got tether ball, and we're trying to get a basketball goal and a couple of things. So we have sort of a dedicated middle school play area. They also play out here in the courtyard. So they really do have time to eat, I promise. Maybe a little hairy the first couple of days as they get, used to that rhythm of the line, but we'll take care of that as well. So that is what the middle school day calendar looks like. So if they come home and say, I didn't have math today, they could actually be right. So they won't have every academic class every day. So basically they see their classes 2 days and then they don't have that class the next day. And then they'll see it for 2 days and then they don't have that class. So they still might have work to work on, but they won't necessarily have every academic class every day. All right, grades. So, of course, the purpose of grades is we want to give feedback, and we have to give feedback. So that, of course, is the purpose of grades. Now, for those of you who guys were in 5th grade here at Holy Comforter, this is the same. So if you happen to pop onto those grade books and see those categories, we have classwork, we have homework, we have quizzes, we have tests, but you're not going to see those as categories or see those specifically listed in the grade book or in, that online portion that you look at. You'll see like chapter 4 test, but the category you'll see it under is a skills assignment, because there's only 2 types of assignments in the middle school, and that is skills and responsibility. And I very much appreciate 5th grade sort of took that from us, which I was glad they did that, because it got, it's getting those kids used to that kind of grading system. So they will still have tests and quizzes, and you'll see those listed. But what we do is we categorize everything, skills or responsibility. As you can see, it also could be both. But skills grades make up 70% of the grade for the 9 weeks, because really what we want the grade to reflect is mastery. However, we also want them to understand that turning in your homework on time will affect your grade. So that's the responsibility piece. So skills grades are really anything that measures mastery of a concept or is some sort of culminating project. So there will be fewer skills grades, typically, than there are responsibility grades. Responsibility grades are those grades that sort of measure progress and responsibility. Did you get your homework done? Did you turn it in on time? Did you turn the paper in on time? If you didn't turn the paper in on time, but you really did a good job on the paper, your skills grade might be really good. Your responsibility grade for that same paper might not be so good. So we want it to be easier to say, okay, if a kid is struggling, where's the hang-up? Is the hang-up in mastery? Like, are they just, are our tests not where we want them to be, but they're doing all their work? They've got a, 90 or 100% in responsibility grade. Or are they doing pretty well on the tests, but we're in the 40s or the 50s in responsibility grades? So that's how, again, we have those conversations with the kids. So when you log on and see, if you look at a detail of a grade, you'll see skills and then the grades listed and responsibilities and the grades listed. So 70% skills and responsibility grades are 30% for our 9 weeks grades. Exams, except for those students, so 6th graders who are in our 7th grade math class will take an exam at the end of the year. But typically, exams don't start until the end of 7th grade. So 7th graders have exams at the end of their year, and then 8th graders have both midterms and final exams. So you kids don't necessarily need to worry about exams this year, but they might have unit tests or something that's bigger at the end of the quarter. Okay, and as I said, the measurement for academic classes, our elective classes are all responsibility grades. That's actually a change this year. So our elective classes, we kind of determined that really most of those grades are responsibility, because those are elective classes. They're just kind of fun. We're not really measuring a whole lot of skill in whacked out sports. Or, even our teenagers guide, which is a financial class that is open to 7th and 8th graders, or we have speech and debate. They're really responsibility grades. So we kind of eliminated skills grades for that. So basically it's just, one category, and it's a point system for that category, because the kids would get kind of hung up on skills grades for elective classes. So we just made it easier for everybody. Okay, and then our conduct system. So you'll see numbers if you look at the conduct. So you'll see Q1, which is quarter one, and that's the grade. And then you can look at C, which is conduct grade. And so these are our conduct designations. So EMNU, if you see a U, you've probably heard from somebody already. E's, hard to come by. U's, hopefully really hard to come by. Where we like our kids are straight in the M's. Okay, they don't start at the E. They certainly don't start at the N. We're M's. We're good. We're all right. So then when they excel, they get those E's, right? When they maybe blow it every now and then, you might see an N pop. And what they'll do is they'll get conduct grades at the end of that 6-day cycle. So you'll see a grade entry for conduct 1, and that's the first 6-day cycle. And the teachers should, hit or miss every now and then, enter those conduct grades. And then those conduct grades will appear, kind of an average of that will appear at the end of the 9 weeks, and that's what shows up on the report card. So don't panic if you see M's and not E's, right? Our conversation with them is, hey, listen, you're not perfect. You're not going to be E all the time. Like we just want you to do it well, and that's an M. And if you do something extraordinary, and you're a leader, and every kid at some point rises to that, and most kids will occasionally see those N's, but if you see an N, or if you see an email to a teacher that talks, or from a teacher to your child that talks about an N, don't panic. Don't panic. I promise if anything is really bad, you will hear from the teacher directly. If it's really, really bad, you'll hear from me or Coach K directly. Okay, so that's our conduct system. And again, character is important. So, we hold the kids accountable for their conduct, for their words, for their actions. It's important to us that they treat each other well, and that's where they get in trouble the most, is just how they are treating each other, and not because they're horrible people. It's because they're 12. And they're 13, and they just don't know how to manage everything that's happening in their head and with their emotions. We'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, so that's our conduct system. Okay, here's the fun part. Okay, so if you haven't experienced this yet, and some of you are like, yeah, I've already seen that, right? You're already the dumbest person in the house, okay, because you know nothing, and they know all things. Or their friends know all things. That becomes super important at this age. So I'm just going to run through 3 sort of common pieces of what happens in middle school. And like I said, I like Twitter and looking at these kinds of things. So this is sort of where I draw the illustrations. The first piece for middle schoolers is it is a huge, huge emotional, social, and cognitive change, and it completely messes them up. Like, all that's happening at the same time, and it makes them crazy. Okay, like my favorite is my teen who is unable to eat his dinner because the vibes are off, right? Like, he can't explain it, they can't explain it. Like, the world is just horrible, right? And I can't understand and I can't articulate, but there is just something wrong, and I cannot eat what's in front of me, or I can't wear this shirt that I've loved for the last 3 years. Okay, so it is a huge, huge change, and it just completely messes them up. And so have you guys heard the expression three-nager? Right, if you've heard, you have a three-nager. So it generally refers to a 3-year-old, okay, who is just behaving irrationally. But they call it three-nager for a reason. So we're on the nager part, okay? Like, they are irrational. They are highly, highly, highly emotional. They try on words. They try on personalities. They try on personas, all trying to figure out who they are. And sometimes what they're trying on is shocking. And it is not in line with family values. That's what I would say to my children. This is not in line with our family values. Okay? Like, this is not what we do. And I mean, it really sometimes it will shock you, and not in the happy way. Okay, but please understand, it is normal. Right? I tell parents a lot, like, it is developmentally appropriate, but it is not appropriate. And so it is normal within the realm of behavior for these kiddos, but we will address it because it's not okay. And so that's, again, sort of the language we use. It is developmentally appropriate, meaning it is within the boundaries of normal for these guys, but it is not appropriate behavior, and you cannot do it or say it or whatever here in this place. You can't do that. Okay, so they're unreasonable, they are unpredictable. And again, some of you guys may have already seen some of this. Some of you might get through 6th grade and be like, easy peasy, right? 7th grade's coming. Okay, so again, it happens in various stages for all these guys. The emotion happens a little bit sooner for the girls and maybe a little bit stronger for the girls. The just total, like, lost is really more prevalent in the boys. You can tell that by what the lockers look like after a couple of weeks. Okay, really even the first day. Like, boys will come in with all their stuff in a Publix bag, put the Publix bag in the locker, and be like, I'm good. Okay, Lisa's going to tell you why that's not the case. Girls are buying carpets and chandeliers. Okay, so let me tell you, if you have a girl and they've bought a chandelier, send it back. Okay, send it back. Those lights and everything that hang down, they just get in the way, and the girls will rip them out after a couple of weeks. Okay, but it really, I mean, it's hilarious, and this is why, like, we are where we are, because I love it. Like, these guys really, from one morning class, right, to the afternoon class, completely different person. Totally different. And we have no idea what happens sometimes in between. Okay, so the emotional, the overreaction, the just absolute irrational, and sometimes the, very not in line with the family values or what we've taught you, that's going to happen. And you're going to hear your child, I wish it weren't the case, but you might hear them come home and say, oh my gosh, these kids were talking about this at lunch. Okay, and you might go, okay, right, like, what school are you at now? But, these guys are hearing it and they're repeating it. And they don't always know what it means. So if you hear something, and if we have time, I'll tell you a hilarious story that's like my quintessential middle school story. But if you hear something and you're like, oh my gosh, please call. Please email. Please ask. Okay, before you, like, fire it off on the group chat, please ask me first. Right? Because, again, and we'll talk about this, they have no capacity to interpret information and repeat it correctly. So, like, you might hear them say something. And, again, we are not a perfect place. Our children are not perfect. Our teachers are not perfect. Okay? And so some things, some things might be more true than others, but please ask. Because always our goal is what is best for your child. All right. Next thing. It is a very, very difficult balancing act that you guys have for the next couple of years. Because they're going to tell you, do not chaperone the dance. And they are going to tell you, do not come to the cookout. And they're going to tell you, do not show your face at lunch. Okay? Do some of those things. Don't do all of those things. Okay? But please, please, please be involved. And when we tell you, like, we're shifting the conversation and the responsibility to the kids, that does not necessarily mean, all right, peace out, I don't have to do homework anymore, I'm with my kid, or I don't have to check their grades. Nope, you're definitely going to need to still do that. But if you see something funny, ask your child. Right? Start the conversation with them. And then, if you have no idea what they're saying, or they're not making any sense, which is highly possible, please email the teacher. Okay, please email me. Please email Mrs. Butera. Okay, but truly, right, it's a balancing act of trying to figure out. And even when they say, I don't want you there, they really do want you here. And they really do need you here. So please, at some point in those 3 years, chaperone a dance. Because it's so fun. I mean, it's hilarious, especially like the first dance with the sixth graders, because we have them in here and they're decorated beautifully. And I know there's a volunteer sheet, so please, come on if you like to decorate and do all that stuff. They don't pay a whole lot of attention to the decorations, so we're sort of minimalist in the process. But like, the eighth graders you're out here dancing. Senor Long, who of course is our wonderful Spanish teacher, is also a spectacular DJ. If you didn't know, he is the kids' favorite DJ. They complain about every DJ. They complain about him less than the other DJs. So he is our always and forever DJ. And, the eighth graders will be out here dancing, and the sixth graders, like the girls, they'll be dancing with each other, right? Kind of moving. The boys, they'll go in, and they'll come out. And they'll, like, circle the perimeter, right? And they'll just kind of pace around, and then they'll go in, and then they'll go out. And then a slow song will start, and they will be like, peace, into the bathroom, right? Or into that art gallery, right? But they're laughing, they're smiling. I mean, there's some anxiety. We do sometimes have tears at dances, right? It's a hard, emotional thing. But please, please, please be involved. Be involved in the conversation. Be involved in the activities. It just looks different than it did in lower school. Okay, last thing. The perspective, as I mentioned, is totally off. Okay, they really have no ability to interpret information and relay it correctly. So when they say, like, just something crazy happened in class, I mean, it could have, but if you ask some clarifying questions, then maybe you get something that turns out a little bit different. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I have a parent call, somebody stole my child's laptop. Nope, nobody stole your child's laptop. I promise. Yes, like they had it in their backpack, in their locker, and it's gone. Right, I promise. Nobody stole the laptop. Okay, and the kid is 100% convinced, and they are not lying, they are not being deceptive. They are truly 100% convinced that their laptop was in their backpack in their locker, and it is not there anymore. Okay, one of two options. It's in a class. Most likely, it's in a class. So we walk around, and we find the laptop in a class, or wherever Omega was, if there happened to be an after school, or it's in the locker room from football practice or whatever. Or it's in the backpack. It's still in the backpack. Right? Like, I can't tell you how many times they're panicking and I can't find it and somebody stole it. And I'm like, okay, give me your backpack. Bring it here. And we start digging a little bit in the possibly unorganized backpack, and there's the laptop. Phones are a little bit easier now. This used to happen all the time with phones, but now at least parents are like, it's on campus somewhere because of, God bless, Life 360 and, Find My iPhone. But it is really, and they are stunned when the laptop is in the backpack. They are they're like, I don't know how it got there. Don't either, dude. It's fine. But, hey, we got it. So they really, like, if they come home, if they say something crazy, please, please, please ask them, ask us, right? Because it probably didn't happen at least that way. Because they just, again, it's not because they're being deceptive. It is not because they are not good people. They just cannot see correctly. We have a hard time doing that, relaying information correctly from what we are sure we saw or are we sure we heard. These guys do it so, so, so badly. Okay, so please, please, please ask them, ask us, and realize, like, again, they are not being deceptive. I did not, that child was not lying, just didn't remember or look hard enough to find the backpack, and that's okay because they're 13, and that's what 13 does to them. So it's all good, and we love them. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Butera for a few minutes.
So another one of my favorites is kiddos, particularly August and September, 6th graders, come into my office very, very, very upset. Ms. Butera, someone has switched locks with me. I have tried my lock over and over and over, and someone took my lock. I don't know how they did it. and they put it on a different locker because my lock is not on my locker. Let's go. Please show me what locker we're looking at. And they're not at their locker. They're at someone else's locker. But magically we figure out what locker is theirs, and then their combination works much better when they use it on their locker. So my name's Lisa Butera. I am the middle school guidance counselor. I have been at Holy Comforter for either 18 or 19 years. I cannot figure that out yet today. And I absolutely love being in the middle school. I love the kids in middle school. I love the faculty in middle school. We have a fabulous time. So I'm just going to hit on a few things. Some things will be towards the end pretty practical, kind of like a little checklist for you guys to go through. But just wanted to touch on a little bit. Amy mentioned the Target program, and like you saw on the schedule, we view that as the advisory program, and that's where that happens. So in lower school, those of you who've come from lower school, Beth McCann, Jenna Long would pop in the classrooms, do guidance lessons every so often. Rather in middle school, because we have so many of them, they are having at least twice in their cycle their guidance lessons that I generate, but it's delivered to them by their target teachers. So sixth grade at the beginning of the year, it's going to be how are we getting through our day, and kind of guiding them through their day, having them learn their schedule, having them learn how to do locks, having them learn how to get organized, how to use their planners, how to check on the website, how to look at their grades, all these little how-to things of how to do middle school. When they come over, we don't expect them to know how to do middle school. We think it's our job to teach them. So we're going to take that time to do that. Once they get to 8th grade, we're talking more about leadership. What do leaders look like? What do we believe? What are our values? How do we portray values? So the conversation is very different as we go through there. So on next Tuesday, they will have their move in the locker day. Very exciting. So from 2 to 3, 6th graders will come. They will move into their lockers. It really realistically takes, like Amy said, usually takes the boys about 5 minutes or so to move in. And depending on how elaborate the girls and the mamas want to be, that might take a little bit longer. But we kind of give that broad window because they are lockers. They're kind of crammed in there, so you kind of have to be patient because there's a lot of bodies in that area at that time. Then from 3 to 4, they will report to their target classroom. That'll be posted in the hallways so they'll know where to go. And then for that next hour, their target teacher is going to talk to them, give them their schedule, their official schedule, so they'll find out who their teacher will be for each of their classes. And they will work with them on how to read that schedule, how to show up to school the next day, and make it to their first class, their second class, and then back to them at Target right after that. And then they reset them, and they get them through the next time, back to Target the next day. So it's kind of little bit by little bit, but it's a really important time for them to be there to have that orientation. They also take them a tour around the middle school, answer their questions, kind of get some little jitters out. We have, I believe, 10 new to Holy Comforter 6th graders, so we're very excited to have them into the mix. And so we're riding right about 52 kiddos coming over for 6th grade. So it's a really good number. We're excited about that. And so that day will really be a good day for them. Another thing I wanted to share is each year at the end of 6th grade, we ask the target teachers, work with them, and what have you learned? What have you gotten? What advice do you have for next year's 6th graders? So Amy talked a lot about how intentional we are, and we do have lots of conversations with them, lots and lots of conversations. Lots of things happen in the hallways, in the courtyards, at lunch, not necessarily academic, but hey, I just noticed that when this student did this, you did that. Did you notice that? Can you tell me about that? How did that play out for you? How do you think that kiddo felt about that? So just quick, maybe 2-minute conversations, but just to have them kind of reflect at times, or, I saw you do that. That was really nice. I'm proud of you. That was a good job. Keep that up. So little things to push them in the right direction. And hopefully, by the end of the year, they get some of the messages, not just academic, but the other. The very first target class that they have, we do an exercise in perception. And then we do the same one at the end of the year. So our hope is that by the end of the year, they have a little different perspective on things. But here are some suggestions at the end of 6th grade, their advice for next year's 6th graders. Memorize your lock combination and remember to lock your locker. Learn your schedule. Be on time. 5 minutes is more than enough time to get from class to class. Stay organized. Use your planner. Check your email several times a day. Manage your time. If a teacher gives you an opportunity to do your homework in class, do it. Don't procrastinate and put off your homework. Get started right away. Save the easy stuff for last. Remember to charge your computer each night. Don't stay up late. Get good sleep. Ask for help when you need it. Be prepared for all your classes. Always bring what you need. It's okay to email teachers when you need help or are absent. Don't spread rumors. Just be nice. They go on to say, just showing up for class is not enough. You must pay attention and work. Listen carefully to teachers. Study. Really study. Learn the concept, not just the answer. Try different ways to study until you find one that works for you. Middle school is more difficult than lower school. Don't be scared. Stay calm. Don't overthink. Ask questions. Questions are a good thing. Don't expect A's to be handed to you. You have to work for them. B's are not the worst thing in the world. Teachers are not responsible for you or your work. If you forget your work, learn from it and do better next time. And then finally, doing poorly on an assignment or test does not define you. Learn from your mistakes. Try your best. Make the most of every class and every day. Stay away from drama. Be yourself. Be genuine. Don't underestimate yourself. You're capable of more than you think. So I would say that if these kiddos coming in learn even a portion of these lessons throughout their 6th grade year, and we still have 7th grade and we still have 8th grade ahead of us, we're in really good shape. So it's definitely a 3-year process, but we will look out for them, and we are really excited. So there's a few little practical things that we would love your help on for us to be the most successful as possible. The first bell in middle school rings at 7:55. That's when the kids are allowed for 6th grade into Smith Hall, into the building where their lockers are. And then they have until 8:05 to be seated in their first period class, meaning they've already gone to their locker, they've already gotten their things, put away their backpacks, and they've made it to class. Therefore, we really need the kids to arrive on campus really by 7:50. So please do your best to help them get to campus by 7:50. Drop-off can be in this back loop behind the commons, or it can be out front. If you're really pushing that time, out front is closer to where they need to be rather than the back. If they get here at 7:45, the middle schoolers hang out in here before school. They like that. They hang out in here for about 10 minutes, chit-chat, see what's happening, all that. It's just a real laid-back environment, and they enjoy that. If they get here at 7:30, they would actually go into Alpha, which will be over in Smith Hall, which is where their lockers are, that first building. So if they can hit campus no later than 7:50, we're in good shape. Also, for locker move-in day, if they could have all of their school supplies. So there's a list posted on the website. If for some reason you have any questions about that, let us know. Take some time, go through that. In middle school, we ask that you work with your child and make sure everything is labeled ahead of time. So label what's needed for science. Go ahead, write their names on it, please, and write the subjects. Put subjects on the spines of the binders, right, that are going to be in their locker. If possible, it might be a good idea to color code, give different color binders for different subjects, figure out what works with your kiddo. Make sure they have a pencil pouch that they can fit everything in. Make sure they have headphones. So go through that supply list. So if they can show up with everything that they need, if they need a binder for science, if they need tab dividers for science, well then let's make sure that binder already has paper in it, and let's put the tab dividers. So then when they go to science, all they have to do is grab that as opposed to 5 different things. So get that, and there's summer homework. So have them show up for school on the first day, hopefully with their summer homework. So if not, that will be a learning opportunity that we will have right off the bat. But here on time, move in with their school supplies, and then that summer homework are really good ways to kind of start off the year strong. And then I would say every child is different. So we may have a few kiddos who are ready to hit 6th grade, and they got it, they're on autopilot, they can handle it, they can manage their assignments, they have their study routine, they figure out their classes. The majority are not there, and that is completely fine. We have quite some 7th graders who aren't quite there. So our recommendation is for you to stay connected with them, keep your eye on the grades, have conversations with them, see what they're up to. If they're doing their homework, ask to see it afterwards, right? And then you can get a gauge of where they're at. If they need some support, then maybe you can provide that, or reach out to us and we can give some suggestions. But just because they're in middle school doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to do middle school. So work with us on that and reach out. We have so many wonderful, wonderful teachers who have lots of ideas, lots of strategies, who love these kids and are there to help you. So if you have any questions, reach out, but we are really excited to have this group. It should be a good year.